Lesson 3, Alexander's Empire. Philip II of Macedonia. As you learned earlier, the Persians set out to conquer the Greek city-state but failed. Macedonians were people that lived in north of Greece. In the 300 BCs, they conquering Greece. The Macedonians were farmers. They raised sheep and horses and grew crops in the river valleys. For much of its history, Macedonia was not a very strong kingdom. Under King Philip II, however, Macedonia became a superpower in the ancient world. As a young man, Philip had lived in Greece, and he came to admire Greek culture and military skill. Philip became king of Macedonia in 359 BC. He created a strong army. Philip planned to unite the Greek city-states under his rule and destroy the mighty Persian Empire. Philip trained a vast army of foot soldiers to fight like the Greeks. At this time, the Greek city-states were weak. They had been divided by the Peloponnesian War. As a result, they could not defend themselves against Philip's powerful army. Philip took control of the city-states one by one, and he defeated some city-states in a battle. He bribed leaders of others to surrender. A few city-states voluntarily agreed to join with Macedonia. Many Greeks worried about Philip's plans. Demotheus was an Athenian who opposed Philip. He was a lawyer and one of Athens' greatest public speakers. Demetrius warned the Athenians that Philip was a threat to the Greek freedom. He urged all city-states to join together to fight the Macedonians. By the time the Greeks tried to unite, it was too late, and the Athenians joined with Thebes and other free city-states. They battled Philip's army but could not stop his invasion. In 338 BC, the Greeks and the Macedonians fought one major battle. At the Battle of Chaeronea, Philip's army crushed the Greeks. Philip now ruled most of Greece. Alexander takes over. After conquering Greece, Philip hoped to lead the Greeks and Macedonians to war against the Persian Empire. Before Philip could carry out his plans, however, he was killed. His son Alexander became king. Alexander was only 20 when he became the ruler of Macedonia and Greece. But Philip carefully prepared his son for the job. And by age 16, Alexander was serving as a commander in the Macedonian army. He quickly won the respect of his soldiers. They admired him for his bravery and his military skill. After Philip's death, Alexander was ready to fulfill his father's dreams. He prepared to invade the Persian Empire. War with Persia. In the spring of 334 BC, Alexander led almost 40,000 Macedonian and Greek soldiers into Asia Minor. Their goal was to defeat one of the strongest armies in the world, the Persians. Alexander's cavalry, or soldiers on horseback, proved to be a stronger force. They fought a battle at Kranicus in what is today northern Turkey. In that battle, Alexander's cavalry crushed the Persian forces. Alexander's forces continued to march across Asia Minor, and they freed Greek city-states that had been under Persian rule. A year and a half later, in November 333 BC, Alexander fought the next major battle against the Persians at Issus in Syria. Once again, Alexander's military skills resulted in a victory. The Persian king Darius was forced to flee from Issus. Alexander and his troops did not pursue Darius, though. Instead, they moved south along the Mediterranean coast. In early 331 BC, they conquered Egypt. Alexander built a new city in Egypt and named it Alexandria after himself. As a center of business and trade, Alexandria became one of the most important cities of the ancient world. It remains a vital city in the Mediterranean region today. In late 331 BC, Alexander's army headed back north. He turned eastward and invaded Mesopotamia, now ruled by the Persians. Alexander's army smashed Darius's forces at Gogumia near the Tigris River. After this victory, Alexander's army took over the rest of the Persian Empire. After he conquered Persia, Alexander did not stop. In 327 BC, he marched his army into northwest India. There he fought a number of bloody battles. His soldiers were tired of constant fighting and refused to go any farther. Alexander agreed to lead them home. On the return march, the troops crossed a desert in what is now southern Iran. Heat and thirst killed thousands of his soldiers. At one point, a group of soldiers found a little water and scooped it up in a helmet. They offered the water to Alexander. According to a Greek historian, Alexander, with a word of thanks for the gift, took the helmet and in full view of his troops poured the water on the ground. So extraordinary was the effect of this action that the water wasted by Alexander was as good as a drink for every man in the army. In 323 BC, Alexander returned to Babylon, one of Persian cities now under his control. The hardship of the journey had wrecked his health. Suffering from wounds and worn out by fever, Alexander died. He was only 32 years old. Alexander was a great general who feared nothing. He rode into battle ahead of his soldiers and marched into unknown lands. The key to Alexander's courage may have been his early education. As a boy, Alexander read the Greek epics. His role model was Homer's warrior Achilles. Today, Alexander is called Alexander the Great. Alexander's armies extended Greek rule over a vast region. They spread the Greek language, ideas, art, and architecture throughout Southwest Asia and Egypt. Alexander's success marked the beginning of the Hellenistic era. Hellenistic means like the Greeks. The Hellenistic era refers to when Greek culture spread to non-Greek people that Alexander had conquered. A divided empire. Alexander planned to unite Macedonians, Greeks, and Egyptians and Asians in his new empire. His dream of creating one great empire, however, did not last. After Alexander died, his generals divided the empire into 4 separate kingdoms. These kingdoms were Macedonia, Pergamum, Egypt, and Seleucid Empire, the Hellenistic kings. People who served in the governments of the Hellenistic kings had to speak Greek. Hellenistic kings preferred to give jobs to help Greeks and Macedonians. In this way, they were able to keep control of the governments. By 100 BC, Alexandria in Egypt was the largest city in the Mediterranean world. It included 2 excellent harbors and a towering lighthouse. It stood on a harbor island with a burning flame at its top. The library at Alexandria had the largest collection of writings in ancient times. Hellenistic kings also created new cities and military posts. These new Greek communities needed architects, artists, engineers, and philosophers. Hellenistic rulers encouraged Greeks and Macedonians to settle in the conquered lands. These colonies spread Greek culture widely into Egypt and India.